Dumelang, welcome to Face the Nation. My name is Clement Manyatela. Great to have you with us here on SABC News. On the show tonight, should the G20 Leaders Summit be relocated to the city of Cape Town now that the president has expressed disappointment with the state of the city of Johannesburg? That's the proposal from the Cape Town Mayor, Jordan Hill-Lewis. The president said earlier today it was disheartening to witness the city in disarray during the G20 meetings last week. The premier of this province, Panyaza Lesufi, joins us tonight. Also on the show, where does ANC veteran Jeff Radebe and other ANC conveners in KZN even begin to restore people's confidence in the party? Radebe has been appointed by the ANC to strengthen the leadership of the province and stabilize the party following the organization's dismal performance at the polls. He will speak to us tonight. And then later, when are our government officials going to meet with their counterparts in the US? The longer it takes to engage officials from the Trump administration, the more that vacant space is occupied by other actors which may not have this country's interest at heart. Or is the Trump administration refusing to meet with our officials? The Minister of International Relations, Ronald Lamola, will respond to that question. But first, my comment. So President Cyril Ramaphosa was in Johannesburg earlier today. He lives here in Johannesburg, but he was undertaking an oversight visit in the province, meeting with executives from Gauteng and the city of Johannesburg. He was accompanied by some of his ministers and deputies, and he made it very clear how disappointed he was with the state of the city.
One or two meetings of the G20 that I attended here was not very pleasing. The environment that one observed was not a pleasing environment. I say this so that we can improve immensely. As South Africans, we are proud people, and let us get that pride that we have, self-pride, lift us up so that we do present a G20 that will wow people, so that when people look at what we offer and present, they must just say, wow, this is how South Africans do it.
Yep, that's what the president said. Well, join the club, Mr. President. Residents of the city of Johannesburg have been disappointed for a while now about the decay and the degradation in the city. There are residents in metros, in other municipalities as well, that have been complaining about the filth, that have been complaining about the refuse that is not being collected in some areas, infrastructure that is crumbling, water provision that is lacking in some parts of the province. In fact, if the president checked out even the metro center, it's dilapidated, it's vandalized, it's neglected. And that's the city's administrative offices. And my understanding, in fact, some people have argued that the mayor himself may be renting office space because his own office is unsafe for occupation. And this has been the cry of residents in the city for a while now. Here's the president listing some of the problems that he has identified.
There are recurring problems across Gauteng. Some of these include the issue of governance failures, that is. Some of them include financial management or mismanagement. Some of them include crumbling infrastructure, crime and lawlessness, as well as unreliable service delivery. These are the challenges that are also articulated in your G13 list, which you correctly say, if we do not address, we will not have served our people well.
The president has now instructed the executive in the province to get its house in order.
As We are going to be getting visitors throughout the year. Let us make our province and indeed our country presentable.
Now, the question we're asking you tonight is, what is your reaction to the President's call for improved service delivery in Gauteng? What do you think it's going to take to fix the city of Joburg, to bring it back to its former glory? What is it going to take to fix the challenges that the President identified in the metros and municipalities across the Gauteng province? You can share your thoughts with us by sending us a WhatsApp voice note on 078 459 1897. Remember to tell us your name and surname and where you're sending that voice note from, and please keep it at 30 seconds. Alternatively, you can respond on X on @FaceTheNation SABC. After the break, we're going to pick up on that conversation as we speak to the Premier of this province of Gauteng, Panyaza Lesufi. Stay with us. Welcome back. President Cyril Ramaphosa has issued a call to action for Gauteng government officials, emphasizing the importance of collaborative improvement. In his opening address to the Gauteng Provincial Executive, the President acknowledged the challenges faced by municipalities in the province, especially in the Johannesburg metropolitan area. He was urging the executive today to work together proactively to develop effective strategies that will enhance the province's performance, both in the readiness for the upcoming G20 summit of heads of state and for the betterment of the country and its citizens. Gauteng Premier Panyaza Lesufi joins us now in studio. Premier, thank you so much for making time. Good evening.
Thank you so much. Good evening, Madam. Are you well?
I'm good. So the President is very clear, wasn't happy today. He was disheartened about the state of Johannesburg. You are the Premier of the province. The buck stops with you.
Indeed, and thank you so much, Madam Major, for the opportunity. Madam Major, 2 weeks ago, we tabled our State of the Province address. Within the State of the Province address, we identified 13 things that we called them G13, and the President today reiterated them. Almost 65% of those issues are not issues of provincial government. Water, for example, is not our competence. Electricity is not our competence. And some of the work that needs to happen. So when we identified those problems, we said to national government, when we meet both national government, local government, and our provincial government, can't we focus our energy on these 13 problems? Mm-hmm. And I'm pleased that in the meeting, all of us agreed. It's not a problem of provincial government, it's not a problem of local government, it's not a problem of national government, it's our problem. Let's tackle it. And today we passed that resolution. It's a very important resolution. I'll give you one example. There is a law that says if you have to clean the CBD of Johannesburg, if you remove the people that are occupying those legal buildings, what must we do? We must find alternative accommodation, feed them, give them water, give them all those things. We don't have the capacity to do that if you take the number of people that have to deal with those things. So you need the Department of Home Affairs, you need intelligence to know who are these people, how they came here, and you also need firepower of law enforcement agencies. So today we had a very good meeting with all government institutions to say, this is our problem, let's tackle all of it. So if you say the buck stops with me, I will not dispute that because I'm the leader of this province. But I'm excited that we've managed to sell the need to solve this problem collectively and all of us. And we presented it to the head of state, and the head of state has embraced our proposals. And we're looking forward to resolve those problems.
Yeah. Why has it taken so long, Premier? Because what you're saying to me makes sense because it's going to be functional. It helps you with actually resolving the problems on the ground. But this is something that could have been taken a while back.
I don't know why you will say it took long, but I accept the impatient because these things are in our eyes. I mean, you drive here, the traffic lights are not working. You have to go through a pothole. When you live here, you'll be worried about your safety. There's crime, there's all other things. What we needed to do is to conceptualize, cost them, and determine how best they can be resolved. But when we're dealing with that aspect, maybe that's the reason why it took long. When we're dealing with that aspect, we realized that we can't do it as a province. As I said, water is not our competency. But we can't fold our arms and say people don't have water and then it's not our competency. Electricity is not our competence. But we can't fold our arms when people don't have electricity. And infrastructure has been vandalized. We have identified that whether we like it or not, there's an organized syndicate that is attacking our infrastructure. There's no person that uses the traffic lights can deliberately destroy them. There's no person that utilizes our street lights that can deliberately destroy them, the water systems and all other related matters. So today's session was say, President, we need help, we need guidance, we need counsel, but most importantly, we need a collective approach to solve this problem. And we have reached that resolution, and we're excited now that we have to move with speed to deal and attend to some of the issues we've raised.
Let's focus a little bit specifically on the city of Johannesburg. What's the plan also to fix what's also been the problem for a while in the city? I mean, when you go to areas like the CBD, Hillbrow, Berea, Yeoville, Jeppestown, you name them, Joubert Park, Denver, Selby, Doornfontein, they are the shoulders of their former self. What is it going to take to return the city to its former glory?
It's to uproot lawlessness, be merciless to syndicates, ensure those that are not supposed to be in our country are not in our country, ensure that those that are doing wrong things are apprehended and sentenced. Those that need the might of government, we execute that might of government. But you can't do that as a municipality. There's no municipality that can fight lawlessness alone. There's no province that can fight lawlessness alone. We needed the entire country, the might of the country to assist us. And the meeting today with the president was for us to plead for that, to say we need help. I won't say Hillbrow is the best. I won't say Berea is the best. It's worse, it's bad, it's embarrassing. But we are ready to intervene. We've got plans. I mean, we've got almost 18 companies that are ready to invest. They say fix X, Y, Z. We've got institutions that are ready to say, we want to come to the CBD. But we have national government that have buildings that they are not even aware they own those buildings themselves. Today, it became clear when the minister indicated that aspect. So we need a collective effort to deal with this thing. There is a trust deficit. South Africans are no longer trusting us. They no longer believe that indeed this thing will be done. That is why some of us are shying away even to do some of the interviews, so that our action must speak louder than words, rather than promises, promises, promises. Everyone is tired of that. But we had a fruitful meeting. We committed that we're going to deal with these things. The president gave us a permission that every week we must identify a ministry that we need help on and deal with that particular ministry. The president is coming back again tomorrow just to focus on Johannesburg and interact with stakeholders about Johannesburg. And out of that, I'm quite convinced, Madam Major, we are turning the situation around. I mean, there's the biggest mall that is coming in Johannesburg, 24,000 square meters. That's the BRICS investment that we've managed to get. Regardless of those challenges, people are saying we're prepared to invest. Today, we've just unveiled a 25 billion investment from Microsoft. They're building new data centers where? In Gauteng. So it's not that we don't understand the challenges. We know our major challenges are 5 areas. In other areas, I think we're fine. Our major problem is our CBDs, all of them, from Springs to Radebe. The second area is what we call TISH, townships, informal settlement, and hostels. That's where you've got a serious big problem. And the last one is crime. If we can deal with these things, and we're putting the thing, it's just that we are 7 months in office. We have been there before. People believe that we've been there for quite some time. But within the 7 months, we've profiled 425 gangsters or people that are causing the crime that we have in the province. And we have profiled them, we are taking them, we are monitoring them, and out of the 425, 50 have already been arrested. 6 were killed by the police last week in Pretoria. So we have just put the plans. We want society to understand that these plans must unfold as quickly as possible.
Did the minister explain why it is that they don't know that there are some buildings that are owned by government?
Yeah, purely because the record system has been in bad shape. It's not only them. I mean, there are buildings that people left that are owned by business people. When you call them to say you own this building, say, oh, they still have that building. So it's not only them. And that's the challenge that we're dealing with. Is
that why buildings end up being occupied,
hijacked, and all that? And majority of, I mean, almost 35% of the buildings are there. People have abandoned them completely. But we have to go through legal processes. We now have 10 that we are bringing back. We've got 2 court orders that are giving us. But as I said, Madam Major, the trust deficit is so huge. Even if we make this meaningful progress, no one will believe us. That I said to the team, just keep quiet. Let's work on the issues that we need to work. Let it be our actions that will speak on our behalf.
Speaking of the trust deficit, I mean, you're saying the president is coming back to the city of Johannesburg. Is the president going to visit some of these areas that are affected? Because when he speaks about these issues, some of the residents listen to him and think, yeah, but do you really get it? But when he is in the middle of Hillbrow, when he's in the middle of Jeppes town and he sees the potholes, he sees the traffic lights not working, the hijacked buildings, the reality of the people on the ground, and the residents feel, okay, at least then he sees what we are dealing with.
He didn't invite me. He was in the middle of the CBD over the weekend, alone, driving himself. He moved around.
It wasn't in Hyde Park and Sandton.
No. It was in the CBD. He was. He said to me, Premier, I missed an off-ramp because I was driving myself. I found myself in the middle of an area that I couldn't even identify. And that's the Joburg CBD. And the president really accepted our argument to say, I'm convinced that indeed we need to intervene. And we've put good proposal. I mean, there's a build, operate, transfer proposal. So the private sector, you can take a certain portion of Johannesburg, convert it the way you want to convert it. We'll give you a free, you don't have to pay either rates and taxes, and there will be a tax relief. Just develop this area. And after either 15 years or 20 years, you bring it back. We've also made contact with huge financial institutions that are ready to also assist us to deal with this part. So there are plans. My worry is, and that's my deep worry, and I understand, there's a huge trust deficit. Whatever announcement that we can make on how we want to develop the CBD, no one will buy the story.
Until
so that is why we say, let our actions speak. Today, which is the last area that we needed. We've been working hard. Today, we needed a joint commitment from all departments of government. And it's not only Johannesburg only, the CBD. I'm embarrassed with Alexander Township. I'm hugely embarrassed that the apartheid state made it that the way it was, we made it worse. So we need to find a way. So we are now saying each and every government departments, local and national government and province, let's identify what is it that one department says will do in Alexander. Is it building a soccer field, a clinic, a hospital, a school, or whatever? So we are agreeing on all those particular issues so that there is a broad intervention that can change this situation in Gauteng.
Is the current mayor of Johannesburg, Dada Morero, the right person to lead that drive? Because that's a question that some residents have been asking themselves.
But what do you do when you lead a municipality where 37% of the people are unemployed, but they must get water and electricity? Should we deny them water and electricity? Who have to fund for that? Should we have to blame the mayor of the municipality if they switch off people that can get water? We had people in the Pumlamkash that are using water without paying. We closed them. What did they do? They went to the freeway, and we have to open it. So it's a combination of many things. The financing model of the municipalities. But secondly, which is very key, is those that can afford to pay, that are paying for services, and we want the municipality to give you a world-class service when you are not paying it. I mean, there was when the mayor shared with me, I was shocked. A full estate, a high-class estate, they've not been paying for electricity and water, and they're connected. We don't know why. And that's the reason why we want to deal with these particular issues.
Are
but
there
also
enforcement mechanisms there?
The price that we are paying of coalition government. People don't understand that. When the ruling party that I'm proudly part of left that municipality was in good shape. They have finances, they had reserves, they have everything. The city was the way we wanted the city to be. And it's almost 16 or 10 years or so. After that, we have the situation. So it's a combination of many things. And I would be reluctant to pinpoint to one person to say this particular individual is responsible to it. Where I stand, I really believe that the financing model of local government need to be overhauled.
Are the enforcement mechanisms working though? So when people are not paying, because that also becomes a problem if you don't have strength in the enforcement mechanisms to ensure people do pay as they are required.
Within our plans, for example, we are taking our traffic wardens, it's almost 3,000 of them, to go to Johannesburg immediately so that they can do what we are saying, law enforcement, so that everything is enforced. But it will be the same citizens that will complain that the reason why they're not paying either there are traffic fines, they're not paying their rates and taxes, they are not reporting people that are building in wrong areas and other things. They will say that we're intimidating or harassing them. But we have to be very firm now. It's quite clear that if we can't do that, we'll have a city that we are not proud of.
Yeah. Please clarify what's going to happen with the G20 meetings, because the president seems to be quite concerned about that. Are there specific roads, for instance, that are going to be prioritized?
No.
As G20 roads?
No. We are prioritizing everything. We have identified 13 things that we call G13. We have to attend to all of them. Obviously, there must be legacy project on the basis that we are hosting a G20, a first in our continent. We're mobilizing our schools. Each and every school must adopt one a nation, know their anthem and other things. But in terms of infrastructure, and the reason why the president was unhappy on some of the areas is that it's not the first time that we're hosting this kind of... I mean, we hosted the BRICS head of states, and we invited lots of heads of states here. We've been hosting this kind of... The mishap that happened with this one, it was the communication that we needed with all the institutions, because there were role clarification during BRICS. What provincial government can do, local government can do, and national government can do. And we are quite convinced now that we presented a plan to prepare for the G20 and all the meetings today. And that plan was accepted. We're encouraged to go ahead. But what the mishap the president raised, he raised it with me, he raised it with the executive mayor, he raised it with the... And we said to President, it will not happen. But that does not mean we are not capable to host the G20. And that does not mean that, I'm told some mayor says that we need to take it to Cape Town. We were competing with Cape Town. It's not only out of what we are saying, it's out of a stringent evaluation process. The airports that we have, the roads infrastructure that we have, the hospitality industry, many other things that we utilize. And Gauteng was shoulder high. So it can't be, therefore, when there is a mishap, one province feels that is an opportunity for us to come and host this thing. I think they're crying over spilled milk. We need to put our best foot forward. We need to put a memorable G20. We've done that with the World Cup here in Gauteng. The opening session and the closing session was here. We've done that with the BRICS conference. We've done that with many conferences and many sporting events. We are ready and capable. We had a mishap. I personally apologize to the president, and we really believe that we are ready to host a memorable G20.
So the mayor of Cape Town's argument is that there's a lot that still needs fixing in Johannesburg. Why don't you bring this over here, where a lot of work has already been done?
There's nothing. The venue is there. It's Nazareth, chosen by National. Would have not recommended it, but it's there. It's there. We need to work on it. So we already had how many meetings that have already been held? I think close to 18 meetings already that have been held, been successful. Even the meeting that the president referred to, it was successful. It's just that, as I said, there were glitches that the president felt that we can't have those kind of glitches in this time and era. So we'll continue to that. But we are not selfish as Gauteng. We have the right to host this conference. What did we do? We said, let's share it with everyone. And nationally as well. Said, Gauteng, you are hosting this one, but let's share all other meetings with other people. So, therefore, the mayor of Cape Town is misplaced, because there are meetings that are in Limpopo, Mpumalanga, Western Cape. There are even meetings that are in Cape Town that we have opened and willingly felt that we must not be selfish and say it's a Gauteng event, but it's a country event, and we share it across
Just lastly,
everyone.
Premier, you say you've personally apologized to the president. When do you apologize to the residents who've been complaining about what the president complained about today for a very long time?
I did in the State of the Province address. Before I addressed this nation, I apologized. Because they're serious mishaps, very serious. 13 of them. We've characterized them. We identified them. Some are not, as I said, the preview of provincial government. But as a premier of this province, I can't fold my arms and say, no, it's not my problem. We've taken them over, and we've invested money. Take the electricity one. We've invested 1.2 billion that would have gone to improve other things that provincial government need to do. But we really believe that we need to intervene. Water, for example. In December, there were families that without water. They have water now because we have intervened. So we will intervene where we really believe that, regardless of the legal framework and the limitations, these are citizens of our province. They deserve protection, and we need to provide that kind of protection and support. I will not hesitate where we feel that we've made a mistake, that we need to apologize. But it's not to apologize only. It's to rectify the mistake. And that's why even on the G20, today we went to Cabinet and said, this is our plan as Gauteng. We've brought all the mayors under one roof. We've brought all our agencies, road agencies, energy agencies. We've brought them under and said, we need to change the situation across the province. It's a bonus that we've got visitors. Let it serve as an inspiration to move with speed, because there's a deadline that we need to meet.
All right. Gauteng Premier Panyaza Lesufi, thank you so much for coming through on Face the Nation tonight. After the break, we will come back with some of your tweets and your voice notes responding to the question we've been asking you tonight about what the president said in as far as the state of the city of Johannesburg is concerned. Stay with us here on Face the Nation. Welcome back. The question we've been asking you tonight on Face the Nation is, what is your reflection to the president's call for improved service delivery in Gauteng? What do you think it's going to take to fix the city of Joburg to bring it back to its former glory? Some of the tweets that have come through, Dennis says it's encouraging to see the president acknowledging the need for cooperative governance and collaborative problem solving to drive progress in Gauteng. And then Diapo Jack says, President is right. Gauteng infrastructure is dilapidated. Service declined drastically for more than 10 years. And since this coalition government started, it became worse. The Gauteng government and municipality is unable to maintain a sustained infrastructure model to render services. It's long overdue. That coalition in charge of City of Johannesburg is completely clueless, pathetic and incompetent. That's what Vuyo says there. We also have some WhatsApp voice notes that have come through. Let's take a listen to what some of you have had to say on the WhatsApp line.
Good evening, Clement. This is Tepo in the Free State. It is really disappointing to see the president only reacting now just because there will be people coming into the country. People of Johannesburg has been complaining for the past few years about service delivery and nothing was done.
Sam Alekotri copies Clement Dumela. The premier consent must come to the party. Premier Lesufi, as known to me, can turn the situation around. But mark my words, a lot of money is going to be needed. The problem is to leave infrastructure decaying instead of continuously maintaining it. It was for the first time to see the president so annoyed. He had no choice but to put his foot down. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for your inputs and contributions. Let's move to this now. The convener of the ANC Kwazulu-Natal Provincial Task Team, Jeff Radebe, has emphasized to the recently announced 67 task team members in the province that there is no space for corruption under the new leadership. Radebe, along with coordinator Mike Mabuyakhulu, lead a team of new leaders after the ANC's national officials disbanded the previously elected Provincial Executive Committee due to a disastrous electoral performance. Let's bring in now Jeff Radebe, who joins us now via video link live from Ghana in Accra. Mr. Radebe, thank you so much for making time for us. Good evening.
Good evening, Clement, and all your viewers of Face the Nation.
You have said that your responsibility is to start from ground zero and ensure that all mistakes the ANC made previously are corrected timeously. What are some of those mistakes from your own initial observation?
Well, my initial observation starts from the electoral results. 17% by any measure is a disaster. So it means that as the ANC, as I indicated, in fact, even national leadership, including our Secretary General, emphasized this point, that we are facing a very, very devastating existential threat in KwaZulu-Natal in particular. So my job and that of my 65 other colleagues of ours is to start from ground zero, moving brick by brick, root and branch, in order to rebuild and renew the organization to be at the forefront of service delivery in particular, not focusing on internal challenges that the ANC is facing, but to look at what we need to do in order to improve the quality of life of all the citizens of KwaZulu-Natal.
You raised the issue of arrogance by the ANC. Do you believe that the party has been truly humbled now by the dismal performance in the elections last year?
Yes, indeed. We started last week on Tuesday when the Secretary General came to address us. And our first meeting of the provincial task team, which I chaired on Monday, was a reflection to me that comrades in KwaZulu-Natal, they know that what has happened is very devastating to our people. So that's why we've recommitted ourselves that what is past is past. Now we're moving in a new direction very vigorously, at the center of which our people must come first.
What happened to the ANC taking collective responsibility, Mr. Radebe? Because some people in the provinces of KZN, even Gauteng, feel that it's not fair to reconfigure the leadership on the provinces where the ANC performed poorly. You've got to wonder, what is it that the provinces could have done better? I mean, they brought in the big guns during campaigning. Gauteng brought in people like Tokyo Sehwali, Kgalema Motlanthe, Thabo Mbeki, you name it. There are senior ANC leaders that were also deployed in KwaZulu-Natal. So there was a lot of activity in campaigning in these provinces, and maybe voters in these provinces were just fed up. Maybe it's got nothing to do with the leadership.
Well, in my view is that by that time, Clement, damage had already been done. For an example, for the financial year 2023-2024, 7.5 billion rand was not spent by 8 municipalities in KwaZulu-Natal, and 40 out of 54 municipalities have been described by National Treasury as facing serious financial problems. Those two indicate that already in year 2023 we're falling behind as the African National Congress. How on earth is it possible that such large sums of money that have been appropriated in Parliament in Cape Town have not been spent, which means that that's a deadly blow to service delivery in all those areas. So our job as the new leadership is to ensure that we turn the corner in order to ensure that what has been appropriated is properly spent for the people of KwaZulu-Natal.
And then, of course, the other challenge is that you've got former ANC voters that have already committed to the MK party and other organizations in KwaZulu-Natal. Where do you even begin to convince them to come back home, so to speak? It's not just going to take your word.
Well, actions speak louder than words. We were appointed last week, Tuesday. Let me just use one example. There's been a crippling strike in the Ray Nkonyeni municipality in the south coast of KwaZulu-Natal, where trash has not been taken for people, so people were living in stinking condition. Within 1 week of our leadership, we have brought this strike to the end, and the working people are back on track, which means that if we have a dedicated focus on what is needed to improve the quality of life, it can be done. Bad as the situation is, I'm very confident that we can be able to rise like a phoenix to ensure that the ANC does what it's supposed to be doing, to take our people first and deliver quality services to our communities.
What about the Ingonyama Trust and the issue of Itala Bank? Will that be your focus areas as well? How do you deal with that?
Well, my understanding is that those two entities are being discussed at an appropriate level where competencies have been allocated. But I must say, as a person who grew in Natal, I feel very disturbed when I heard, for example, people phoning Itala Bank. There's one gentleman who's a former policeman, Untuli, from Umlazi Township. He says when he ended his employment with the South African Police Service, he put about 700,000 rand away from his original bank, ABSA, into Itala Bank. And last month, in February, he's told that he can't take out his money. He's asking Itala, what are the problems of Itala to do with me? I push my hard-earned money. So that's an example of how devastating this Itala thing. But I'm sure the appropriate authorities, the Minister of Finance, the Governor of our Reserve Bank, they assist with this problem. Okay, already also on the Ingonyama Trust, I do know, even though I don't have the details, that the Minister of Land Reform has been to His Majesty the King Misizu in order to address some of those issues. So I think let's wait for the outcome of all those processes to see where it lands us.
Yeah. And do you have the support of even the former leaders, or the support of everyone really, Mr. Radebe, as you and the other conveners begin with this task of stabilizing the organization and working on the ground? There are, of course, as you would imagine, some people that are not happy that this decision to reconfigure the leadership has been taken.
Well, as I indicated, I chaired the first meeting of the provincial task team. There are 66 of us. In this meeting, only 2 extended apologies that were accepted. So 64 were there, and none of them raised any objection on the program of action that has been adopted, which I call a battle plan. Everybody has committed themselves to ensure that they put their shoulder to the wheel to bring back our people home to the ANC.
All right, Jeff Radebe, thank you so much for speaking to us tonight on Face the Nation. After the break, we'll bring in the Minister of International Relations, Ronald Lamola. Stay with us. Welcome back. The Democratic Alliance says significant efforts are required to rebuild bilateral trust between South Africa and the United States of America. The statement follows the party's visit to Washington, D.C., which it says it was aimed to stabilize diplomatic relations amid heightened tensions. The DA says the Deputy Minister of Trade and Industry, Andrew Whitfield, was part of their delegation that met with U.S. lawmakers and representatives of the Trump administration in his capacity as a senior member of the DA Federal Executive. The Minister of International Relations and Cooperation is Ronald Lamola, joining us now via video link. Minister, thank you for making time for us. Good evening.
Yeah, thank you very much, Clement, and to the viewers at home.
Now, senior officials from the Trump administration seem to be giving audience to organizations like AfriForum and the DA, and not to the officials from the government of South Africa. What is going on? Are they refusing to meet with officials from our government envoys?
Yeah, Clement, maybe they must give you the names of the people that they've met. As we always say, we continue to be in engagement with Washington through our ambassador in Washington, Ambassador Rasul. So I hear all the parties that have been there are saying they've met senior officials from they don't tell you the names. When we go to Washington, we tell you we've met these people. This was the discussion and these are the outcomes. Maybe that is what they should do. But we always state, Clement, that in terms of Section 231 of the Constitution, the foreign policy of the Republic, its promotion and its national interests vest with the national executive, which is vested with the president. No any other person can claim to represent the Republic of South Africa in any foreign country. They can do so as individual parties or any grouping, but they should never portray to be representing the interests of the Republic of South Africa. And we continue to engage with all stakeholders. If there is a need, you will remember that from time to time, when we do go to this foreign visit, we do include various stakeholders, business, trade unions, and so forth, because we do think that they've got a role to play to clarify certain issues. But the main representative of the government of the Republic of South Africa is the National Executive of South Africa.
But when is our meeting then? So, and by our, I mean our officials. When are they meeting with officials in DC? I mean, the president announced he'll be sending envoys to the various countries to explain our position, a number of issues. And I imagine that the US probably is the first country to visit. When are our officials getting to the US to start those negotiations?
Ibrahim Rasool is already in the US, busy at work, engaging with all the relevant stakeholders. But you will also note, Clement, that there has been a huge exodus in the State Department in the US. Some of those that have left are the people responsible for the Africa desk, for the trade mission. Those are the relevant people that we are supposed to engage with when we engage with the State Department. And in the other fora is Congress, people, Senate, that I've already said that Ambassador Rasool is already engaging with some of the senators, with some of the Congress people. But in the State Department, key decision makers and relevant advisors are not yet there. So it's very difficult to meet anyone when those are not yet there. But he is continuing to engage the relevant Congress people and the relevant people that at this stage are important. It's like coming to South Africa when there is no Director General in the Department of International Relations, or there is no DDG responsible for that country that you are coming from. So that is the current prevailing environment in Washington. And that's why I say these groupings that they've said they've made senior officials and so forth, you must also demand them to tell you who, by name, who are those and what is their responsibilities. Because as you are aware, they are still setting up, it's a government in transition.
And of course, we may not know the names of, and perhaps next time we engage with them, will require that maybe they give us that information if they are able to. But here's where I think the challenge is for you and maybe for government minister is our government officials are not the only people that President Trump's advisors and officials are going to be listening to. I mean, Helen Ziller told me on this show that she met with Trump's advisors last year. AfriForum claims to have spoken to them. The DA delegation that's just come back now claims the same thing. So it doesn't look like we have a coherent common message as South Africa. We're pulling from different sides, and that won't work for us. And the longer you take to engage officials from the Trump administration, the more that vacant space is occupied by these other actors that may not have this country's interest at heart.
There is nothing wrong with any party or anyone engaging with whoever they want to engage with anywhere in the world, including in the US. Where it becomes wrong, Clement, is when they portray themselves to be representing the South African government. And as I've already said, that the South African government is duly represented in Washington by Ambassador Rasool. There is no vacancy, there is no gap. He is engaging with all the relevant stakeholders and relevant people that the South African government at this stage can engage. And we continue to open that line of engagement because we always said that we value the bilateral relation with the US, which is mutually beneficial. There is a lot of exchanges between the two countries. So it is important that he continues to engage. And as you have raised the issue of the envoys, when the president has appointed the envoys, he will be able to announce and put the dates of when and how they are going to continue to engage. But you will remember that we hosted the G20 year foreign ministers meeting. And I also had a lot of bilaterals with my counterparts from all the member countries of the G20. And this, we continue to clarify South Africa's position with regards to the issues that came out of the executive orders, including the national imperative of redress and transformation, including issues related to foreign trade, issues of related to aid. And this did not only end there. I was also in Geneva last week at the Human Rights Council. I also had a lot of bilateral engagements in Geneva, for example, with the Red Cross and also the nuclear energy, the International Nuclear Energy Agency, and many other organizations that are based in Geneva. And all of them are also impacted and affected by these cards that have got a global reach.
Yeah.
So we are not resting on our laurels. We are engaging. We are at work, and we continue to provide the necessary by deepening the bilateral engagements with the various countries across the globe, with an aim of finding a common ground.
Yeah. Earlier today, you spoke about seizing the moment presented by this U.S. decision to cut aid permanently to organizations here in South Africa. How do we seize the moment? You know, when the health minister told us on this show earlier this week that government doesn't even have the financial capacity to fully fill the gap left by U.S. aid in terms of rands and cents. He said the aim is that no one must run out of ARVs, but that doesn't mean giving NGOs money the U.S. was giving them.
Yeah, as you correctly point, Clement, the URVs, the ARVs, as the minister says always in all his speeches, is that he does have the budget to buy for the ARVs. What the challenge that has arisen is the fact that the support to the various NGOs and other necessary support measures, which has also affected jobs of many people that are employed by these NGOs, which we sympathize with as the South African government. But the point I was raising is that this is now a sovereign decision taken by the United States of America. It is within their right to make whatever decision that they want to make. Unfortunately, this decision has been taken abruptly when the whole world, not only South Africa, was not ready. We were not ready, and any other part of the world is not ready. And that's why an engagement also arose at the AU level, and also when we hosted the G20 here in South Africa, we also had engagements with our counterparts like Nigeria and Algeria, Egypt, many other countries in the continent. And all of us, we view this as an opportunity to seize this moment, look at our own internal capabilities, and build our own capacities as countries. And this will not be easy. Obviously, there will be pain that we have to undergo, but this is the reality that we are facing. South Africa, it will not be for the first time. You will remember that under apartheid, when we were faced with sanctions, we have come up with a lot of industries and built our own internal capacity when it was difficult and we were facing an unjust law. But now we are facing a situation where there is these sanctions, and we have got many friends across the globe and alliances and partners whom we can be able to look into ourselves and build these platforms of self-sustainability. And you will see also from the speech I also quoted from what the Africa CDC said during the period of COVID about building local manufacturing, building our own internal capacity as a continent, because most of the continent's health capabilities, even the vaccines, we produce less than 5% of them. But we have got institutions here in South Africa which are of high standards, which during COVID were the leaders in science and innovation. Many of them in terms of research capacity. Our universities are ranked amongst the best in the world in terms of this research. And even when you look at these issues related to US aid and so forth, some of the drugs that came through our own internal research here in South Africa. So it's clear that if we can galvanize, mobilize all our internal capabilities and resources, South Africa can be able to stand, be self-sustainable, and also work with the entirety of the continent. There is a light that we can be able to find at the end of the tunnel.
All right. Ronald Lamola, the Minister of International Relations, thank you for chatting to us this evening on Face the Nation. All right, let's wrap up with some WhatsApp voice notes that have come through responding to that question we've been asking about what the President said earlier today, expressing disappointment with the state of Johannesburg, the state of really the metros and other municipalities across the province.
Good evening, Clement. To answer your question, I think municipalities must start being held accountable for service delivery. I think we must have a systematic process of having them account across all board. All the municipalities have a systematic way to have them account, because seemingly it's as if there's no accountability. People do as they please. Thank you.
Actually, that is nothing what the president has seen today. He needs to go deeper in the same city which was once glorious. He needs to go deeper and see more. Then he will know that he doesn't have leadership under him. Thank you. Pule, Gauteng.
Thank you so much for your WhatsApp voice notes. And thanks for watching the Thursday edition of Face the Nation. We'll be back on Tuesday at 8 p.m. Have a good evening. Cheers.